Good. All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody. Beautiful, beautiful sunny day. We do have a quorum. Hopefully Scott gets on so we got backup. We'll start with introduction. I'm Dale Stein, Chair. Dave?
Dave Brass, Vice Chair, Voting Member, State Committee.
Erica?
Erica Goodman, voting member.
Scott? Jan? Not yet. Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you. Introductions?
Sure thing. I will start off with the advisory members and then move to staff. Anyone from Ag and Markets on? All right, Tim Sweeney sent his regrets. He has a conflict today. CDEA.
Yes, Dustin Lewis here, President.
Hi, Dustin. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. Cornell Cows. Cornell Cooperative Extension. DEC.
Sarah Latessa's on.
Hi, this is Julie
Good morning,
Berlinski.
Good morning, Julie. Department of Health.
Hi, this is Paul Kaczmarzyk. Morgan Zeisek will be joining us later. She has something going on early this morning.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Paul. Department of State.
Good morning. This is Stephanie Wojtowicz from the Office of Planning and Development, and Kate Hogel should be joining us later as well. Oh, I see she's already on, actually.
My first meeting got canceled this morning.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Well, welcome, Stephanie and Kate. Good morning.
Good morning.
SUNY ESF.
Hi, good morning. This is Steve Shaw.
Good morning, Steve. NRCS.
Paula Bagley's here for the NRCS.
Good morning, Paula. All right, we'll shift to staff. Victor DiGiacomo. Okay, TJ Emmerich. Okay, Greg
Good morning,
Albrecht.
everyone. This is TJ.
Oh, hey, good morning, PJ. Sorry I didn't wait long enough there. Good morning. Greg Albrecht.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Brian. This is Greg Albrecht, AIM-based coordinator with the State Committee.
Good morning, Greg. Ron Bush.
Good morning, Ron Bush, CNMP Specialist, State Committee.
Good morning, Ron.
Morning.
Ryan Cunningham.
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Ryan, Regional Coordinator for the North Country.
Good morning, Ryan. Brendan.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Brendan Jordan, CNMP Specialist with the State Committee.
Good morning, Brendan. Scott Fickbaum.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. This is Scott, Region 3 AEA, Central New York area.
Good morning, Scott. Jennifer Clifford.
Good morning, Jennifer Clifford, CRF Program Manager, State Committee.
Good morning, Jennifer. Ben Luskin.
Good morning, Ben Luskin, Regional Coordinator for the Southeast Region, Region 5.
Good morning, Ben. Jason Kokinos.
Good morning, Jason Kokinos, the Data Analyst with State Committee.
Good morning, Jason. Bethany Bisdew.
Good morning, everybody. This is Bethany Bisdew. I am the Agnon Point Source Program Manager.
Good morning, Bethany. Tim Clark.
Yep. Good morning. I'm Tim Clark. I'm the engineer for the State Committee.
Good morning, Tim. Lauren Pazorski.
Good morning, Lauren Pazorski, EBM Program Manager.
Good morning, Lauren. Am I missing anybody? either advisory members or staff?
Hey, Brian, this is Sarah Hall, Council's office.
Oh, hello, Sarah. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Anybody else? All right, and special welcome and hello to all the Conservation District partners on the line today and other partners. Later on in the agenda, you'll all have an opportunity to address the committee, offer any comments, thoughts, or questions, and certainly throughout all the agenda topics, please feel free to take your phone off mute if you have any questions or thoughts. All right, Dale, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you. Review and approve last month's meeting minutes. Any comments, changes, anyone?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
I'll call name out for vote. Erica?
So moved.
Dave?
Yep.
Scott, you on yet? It's not on yet. Approved. We'll move on to correspondence. Brian?
Okay, Dale. Actually, this will be an easy one this month. I do not have any correspondence or any updates on the budget or any other updates at this point in time. So I think we can move right into the CRF program report.
Excellent. Jason and Jennifer, you're up.
Okay. All right, we'll start on Jason, the data analyst, and we'll give the program status update to the Climate Resilient Farming Program. So today in the CRF program database, there are 24 completed contracts totaling $2,197,224. This is an increase in 10 contracts or $775,000. There are 45 active CRF contracts totaling $4.6 million. That's a decrease of 11 contracts from last update, totaling $1.3 million, change from last time. There are no contracts in partial closeout. 4 contracts have been canceled in the history of the program. That's an increase of 1 contract since the last state committee meeting. And 44 contracts from round 5 are pending and currently being entered into the database.
Thank you, Jason. This is Jennifer Clifford, CRF Program Manager. We don't have any amendments this month for CRF. And as Jason pointed out, for round 5, we have 44 contracts that are in progress of having their plan of work reviewed and going through the contracting process. So we're working through that. And for the previous meeting, the state committee approved requesting combining 2 years of funding to announce round 6 as a $8 million round. So we're still awaiting approval on that from DOB. So that's all I have to report for CRF. If there are any questions, Jason or I would be happy to take those. If there's no questions, that's all we had.
Yeah, I got to remember to unmute like everybody else. Yep. That was quick. All right. Jason and Bethany, you're up on Agnon Point Source.
Okay, I'll give the program status update on the agricultural non-point source program pollution prevention program. To date, there have 835 completed contracts totaling $135,655,671. That's an increase of 5 contracts from last month, or $1.7 million change. There are 154 active contracts totaling $54,269,000. That's a decrease of 5 contracts from last month, or $1.4 million. No contracts are in partial closeout at this time. 36 contracts have been canceled through the history of the program. And for round 26, currently being entered into the database, 46 total contracts, totaling just under $15 million.
Thank you, Jason. I will add, just like Jennifer said, for Agnon Point Source, we also do not have any amendments to bring to the committee today, for discussion or approval. We have been working on round 26 contracts and reviewing plans of work as they are submitted by districts. And we've started to send those contracts down to our fiscal management division to start the process to get those underway. I will just mention that plans of work for the round 26 are due by May 20th to ensure that we have a timely contracting process and we can get the contracts executed as quickly as possible. I do also want to update the committee and let everyone know that last week on Monday, which was May 10th, we were able to officially announce round 27 of the Agnon Point Source program. Many thanks to our counsel's office and our front office here at the department who were instrumental in helping us get that RFP out the door on time. So we made it, and on May 24th, we will begin posting questions and answers that we are receiving regarding the round 27 request for proposals. The deadline to submit questions regarding the RFP is June 14th, and the deadline to submit proposals is June 28th. Once again, for this round, we are requiring that proposals be submitted via SharePoint. And we announced yesterday that on May 24th, which is next Monday, we'll be hosting a webinar to discuss various program updates, as well as host a round 27 RFP webinar. That webinar is open to all districts, and we encourage everyone to attend. If districts or staff within the districts are unable to attend, we will be recording that webinar as well and posting that to SharePoint for later viewing. That is all I have to bring to the group today regarding Agnon Point Source.
Anyone have any comments or questions on the Agnon Point Source? Well, we move on. Way ahead of schedule. We'll give it to Greg.
Very good. Thanks, Dale. Share. All right. Let me, Bethany, if you would do a sort of visual and sound check with me, or Dale. Can you hear me okay and see my slide?
Yes. Both.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And Brian, I'm not sure if you wanted to start with a few words if you're available. Otherwise, I can start right in.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So I do want to note a little correction on the agenda here today. We are going to present the AIM-based program round 17 concepts, recommended policy options this month. We are then going to put it out there as a part of the public record in the minutes, and continue to receive feedback from our district partners and other conservation partners throughout the next few weeks until we meet again in June. So I clarified this with voting members earlier. Just want to clarify for everybody on the line today that Greg will present on AIM 17, and we will be asking for a motion to approve the program policies in June at our next meeting.
Very good. Any questions about that? Small update there. Excellent. So thanks, everybody. This is Greg Albrecht, and I won't be able to keep up the pace of Jason, Brian, Bethany, and Jennifer, but this will be a nice introduction to a long-running, successful program called the AIM-based program. And I'm going to keep the slides, unless anyone objects, in this format, just so I can highlight a little bit better and point out different parts of the text, not have to use a laser or something when I go into presentation mode. What I want to talk today about is the introduction of the design, what we're proposing to keep the same, what we're putting out as alternatives for consideration for new elements of the long-running AIM-based program, and it's called Round 16, now that we run them on 2-year cycles as opposed to years. And the slide in front of you has sort of, you've probably seen it before, we used it for AIM 16, it's sort of the whole program in one view, summary of what AIM Round 17 it could very well look like. And for your consideration after the meeting today, after we kind of introduce it, you'll have this slide deck as well as the draft AIM 17 program and contract policy Word document to read through and contact me or others with questions between now and the June State Committee meeting. So I'll start off with a summary here of the basic framework of it for AIM 17 in its draft form. And it still remains non-competitive funding for technical assistance and Tier 4 cost share track projects, still on a 2-year cycle. The action plans for laying out what a district would do for their technical assistance work and their cost share project implementation work would be due on November 1st. It's the same schedule as with AIM 16, 2021 in this case. And then the contract period would run from January 1st of 2022 for 2 years. And so that would have it wrapping up on December 31st of 2023. And we made a major change, the state committee did, with help from districts and partners for AIM 16, and we expanded upon the traditional, AIM technical assistance track to add a modest tier for EMP system implementation cost share track. And that worked really well is working really well with AIM 16. So we're definitely doing that again for AIM 17. And so just an overview of what these two tracks would look like. The technical assistance track continues to have 3 options depending on the full-time credentials and certification achievements of full-time staff on the district. The entry one is $130,000 over 2 years, so that's that $65,000 a year rate. Option B is if you have an AIM certified planner, that's $220,000, and option C is at $170,000 if the district has a full-time certified crop advisor or NRCS certified planner on staff. So because of budget limits, those are staying the same. But we were able to add a new component to this draft approach for AIM 17 for consideration, and that's an additional $10,000 per option, whichever a district is eligible for testing services. So soil nutrient testing, manure and compost nutrient testing, or Cornell soil health testing services. And those would be in the scenarios where a district is doing a Tier 3 plan that requires testing services. So one of the options for nutrient management, perhaps the soil health, soil conservation Tier 3A plan, perhaps it's a CNMP, those types of plans. We don't do a lot of soil testing around, farmstead facility focused Tier 3A plans. And, we've been sort of looking for a home to support those testing services, which are integral and required for those types of plans, and also wanted to make it flexible so that a district could propose, for a certain, like a budget for those testing services. But then if they didn't come to fruition, things changed, either in a big way or in a very small way, those funds that weren't devoted to testing services during that 2-year cycle could just be used as reimbursement for technical assistance. So it's essentially a $10,000 bump for each of the options. You could think of it that we're just asking to earmark in the action plan for testing services, but it could be used to reimburse for technical assistance. And there's some more details in there. We have to specify a couple of tests in a very detailed way because they're necessary for meeting standards and such. And some of those details can be found in the this document, the draft program and contract policy, where the details behind this slide set exist. The next update, I suppose, is that for AIM 17, Ben Luskin and other team members, as well as all the districts, submit information to the state committee, and then Ben plays point, among others, in summarizing that information. And the new senior technical assistance rate that we'll be using for AIM 17, based on our latest data this winter, is $48 per hour. So you'll see that as all throughout the program and contract policy. So that's the technical assistance track in a nutshell, with the major updates being the hourly rate and this addition for testing services. And then the bones of the other track for AIM Tier 4 implementation cost share are very similar to AIM 16 in that there's a $100,000 New York State cost share limit for the 2-year program, and then there's a cap of $50,000 per farm, and then a limit of up to 87.5% in state cost share, and still remains, a cost share opportunity to implement priority projects out of Tier 3 plans or equivalent. So if outside of district planning, if there was a CNMP through another program like EQIP or the dairy advancement program, or on a CAFO permitted farm, or you name it. And since this program works on a 2-year cycle, the same as in AIM 16, really keeping an eye on those farmers who are at this spot and ready to go and eager and committed, and has made the decision about a priority system from their plan, and that would be doable in really functionally less than 2 years. And I know districts are well aware of that, because for me, in the fall of the last year, this fall, for instance, for AIM 16, we really need to be thinking about closing out, and turning our attention to those projects that'll be in the next 2-year cycle of AIM. And as Brian said, down at the bottom here, just a reminder of the timeline, kind of an introduction. See this as an introduction to it this morning. I will say that, we've been trying as a staff to keep good notes as we've been interacting with districts throughout AIM 16, and, marking up the program and contract policy for things that could be done better, live and learn sort of areas, reduce redundancies and things. And we also had a good discussion about this during the April TAC meeting. And so we're bringing it to the state committee now, and think about it over the next few weeks. Get in touch with us. Let's talk about things, and we'll bring a final draft for consideration and approval for the June state committee meeting. And we're working with our partners in with fiscal attorneys in the department to perform a review on the AIM-based program contract policies as we do with all our programs. So shout out to Sarah Hall, who's on the line. We always appreciate her and her colleagues' help in the department. So I am going to get into some details about some major changes, if you will, in the slides to come. But I'll pause here for if there's any just sort of questions or clarifications about the structure of AIM 17.
Thank you, Greg. That was a great summary. And again, just as Greg asked, if there's any questions or comments, anybody on the line, please feel free to take your phone off mute and ask your question or provide your thoughts.
This is Stephanie from Department of State. I just want to say that I think the addition of the 10,000 for testing for the soil health testing is a great add. I just think it's an important factor.
Stephanie, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Keep thinking and keep coming off mute. But in the meantime, just a reminder, this is a slide that we brought to the committee a little over a year ago about what everything the districts did in their responses, brand new approach to the AIM-based program in round 16. And it was impressive, and their work continues to be impressive across a wide range of types of farms. Really reflects the diversity of farm types in the state. And 52 districts are currently participating in AIM. A lot of good, on a fairly short timeline, districts, figured out how to operate the new Tier 4 track and really brought a lot of good projects into the fold. And, so far the data shows that we're kind of meeting that niche among our other state committee programs of, maybe smaller BMP systems that are coming out of Tier 3 plans, perhaps in areas of the state that maybe aren't as competitive in some of our competitive parent programs, or it's still a good incremental improvement in environmental management and conservation, but perhaps would be challenged or in one of our competitive programs to be awarded. And so far, I'm always looking to Bethany, Jennifer, and Brian to see if we're starting to compete with each other at all and create sort of unnecessary, sort of conflict or confusion among what we're offering. And it seems like there's some nice compatibility so far. So that's sort of the rationale with everything that the districts have done with AIM 16 for us to keep pushing forward and trying some improvements for AIM 17. And here's the list of sort of key elements or areas for discussion that we wanted to tee up for at least introduction today. Discussion, if you would like, certainly welcome, and then thought and getting in touch with us in the few weeks ahead of the June meeting. I've already mentioned the top three here, and those, I think I'll just jump to the next slide for the sake of time. But the top two I mentioned on the first slide. Here's the actual language for this new component that would add an additional potential $10,000 budget to the technical assistance track for soil, manure, compost, soil health testing services. There's a longer section of language in the program and contract policy that you'll see that that details out some of the specifics about those testing services, and also based on those specifics, defines a flat rate per sample, which is intended to include the testing service costs plus shipping costs for those samples to the lab. And like I said, there are some very specific details here because some of the tests, the soil nutrient tests, and then the standard soil health analysis package from the Cornell Assessment of Soil Health Program have technical connections and requirements with, for instance, delivering on the 590 nutrient management standard. So that's a section to zoom in on and check out if you want to see sort of all the details of this new component that we're proposing to include. The last sort of simple update that I'll put in here before we get into a couple topics that are, most certainly worthy of more discussion, is that we just had some questions over the last couple of years of, better definition of the match constraints with state funds. And so looking at our prior language in, for instance, the AIM-16 contract policy, we added this language at the bottom to very clearly state that, AIM-based program funds may be used as matching contributions for federal programs, local programs, or programs from NGOs, but may not be used as match or be matched with other New York State cost share programs. So it's just to say more clearly that state-on-state match prohibition. I'm going to switch over to presentation mode for this one. The next topic, and there are two more topics, so this is number 4 and 5, I believe, if keeping score at home, is about a question that came up during the development of the AIM-16 base program. And there was discussion of it at managers' meetings and, one-on-one among staff, as well as during state committee meetings. And we landed on the language because of the non-competitive nature, which is unique to this program among our state committee offerings, to prohibit district employees, district directors, so board members, and members of their immediate households that would be not eligible for applicants for the AIM-based program Tier 4 cost share track funding. So because at the state level and, different than CRF and Agnon point source, there is not a independent review committee. It's considered non-competitive at the state level. We took this approach, and there were, some discussion and interests of, working with that for AIM-16 and then revisiting it for AIM-17, and we absolutely want to do that. And so through discussion, bridging back to AIM-16 as well as in recent months and weeks with partners and at the TAC, we are putting forward some alternative language to consider. So you can see what's currently on the page for AIM-16, and then an alternative to consider in contrast with that for AIM-17. And this is currently the language that you'll find in that draft program policy, not to indicate a decision about it, but just to have that in an organized flow of that document. But it would, it reads as the following, and I will read it just so we can have some time to have it sink in and then discuss. It reads as, all farmers with an AIM Tier 3 plan or equivalent are eligible. Such farmers who are also district employees, district directors, or members of their immediate households are also eligible for AIM-based program Tier 4 cost share track funding, as long as the BMP systems represent priority projects, right? That's always been the case in AIM-based. And a conflict of interest plan is based on their organization's ethics policy, is submitted with the project documentation and followed for the duration of the project. And then in further discussion and thinking about sort of the program holistically, there are some support elements that have been put into the AIM 17 draft for review. And those are the following elements. One would apply to all districts just because this topic brought it to the front of mind, but it's just a good practice that our sense is most districts are doing anyway, that we would add or proposing to add as a requirement for the AIM 17 action plan. And that's just an announcement to the public in a simple way through a district newsletter, a district website. If the district keeps a broad email listserv of stakeholders, that AIM 17 is upcoming and will be available to help for technical assistance and/or cost share implementation of priority best management practices. So it's kind of a general statement there to indicate that, hey, this is here and available. Please contact us for more information, and so that, and not more specific than that, right? So that the district has an opportunity to meet that farmer where they're at and say, oh, it's good to meet you for the very first time. Great, let's get out there and do a tier 1 and tier 2. Yeah, we haven't talked in 6 months. That tier 3A plan and its BMPs that are prioritized in it still make sense to us. If they make sense to you, farmer. And let's talk a little more deeply about, perhaps the cost share track. And what we are considering doing, since we've started to do this with our other programs, is also put out at the department level to its, statewide reach and through its public service announcements, an announcement of the release of the AIM 17 program, like we recently did with the Agnon Point Source program. So that's one supplement, and that would apply for all districts, regardless of whether there's an individual associated with the district that's interested in the Tier 4 cost share track. Now, specifically in those cases where there would be a staff member, a director, or a member of their immediate household, as it's currently written, if there was interest, they had a plan and priority BMPs that were applicable for this cost share program and were interested in participating, we currently have drafted that we require a potential conflict of interest plan be developed and submitted with that Tier 4 cost share track package or its documentation. And this would essentially, we have some examples, and we are concurrently in review on this entire topic with our department attorneys, and including our ethics attorney on this approach. But here's a look at a draft potential conflict of interest form that we are adapting from a couple other department programs, the FPIG program and with the source water buffer program. And the plan would essentially entail identification of the landowner and the project, identification of the potential conflicts of interest, the individuals and the potential conflict, and then the steps that would be taken to avoid those potential conflicts of interest. So, meeting recusals, or perhaps if it was staff member, performing work on the project outside of work hours, whether it's outside of normal business hours or while on leave, things like that. And if we were to go forward on this, we would attempt to pull together resources to sort of help with some guidance here and a template. And certainly at the local level, this would be an area to connect with the district's ethics policy, whether it's their own or one that they've made their own from an overall county policy. Go back to the slides. That's just to show that the current thought about this potential conflict of interest plan. That would be a part of it.
Greg, this is Stephanie again from DOS. Just a quick question. In general, for the priority projects, are they typically like publicly announced, or are they out there for people to see? So you have here a new requirement to document through an announcement the opportunity that's made available. But I'm also wondering, in connection to potential conflict of interest, if once priority projects are chosen, that those are also announced just for full transparency, along with the conflict of interest plan. I don't know if that's already done, but just a thought, just to further just make sure that everything is, transparent throughout the whole process.
Yeah, thank you for that, Stephanie. I would look to others to give a more accurate depiction of how that information maybe is currently made public on awards. Certainly, our competitor program awards are public in terms of the announcement. Deeper in the program and contract policy, as a part of this, we have we've refined we've been more specific in the draft that a district board resolution, as has been required with AIM-16 to support these projects, is made. But we were more specific in that it would have to identify the projects, whether they were associated with a district associated individual or in general. So the board minutes that are public would
identify those projects.
Would identify that. So as the language currently stands, I'm just putting that out there as sort of how the language currently reads, and not necessarily editorializing on your idea.
No, I mean, if that is part of the resolution that's publicly available, then maybe that is, maybe that is enough, to show full transparency. Those that are interested can go to that resolution and see, what was agreed upon and what those priority projects are. So maybe that is, maybe that is enough. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Stephanie, thank you. Do any Brian or any staff or Dustin want to detect and correct and refine any of that?
Greg, this is Brian. I think you answered that really well, and again, and the selection of projects through this program is something that, regardless of who participates, whether it's somebody affiliated with a district or not, the public generally, could request that information at any given time. So just making sure that those decisions are made in a public board meeting, and they're well documented and justified and supported, upon any kind of request from the public, is important, regardless of who participates.
This is Dustin. I agreed. I would say you've outlined it very well, and I wouldn't have anything to add. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you, Dustin. So this is a full summary of the alternatives in mind right now, including what we're operating with through AIM-16, as well as an approach for AIM-17. And these are all sort of integrated into the program and contract policy Word document that's behind the slides here. So I am, at this point, I'd like to do a significant pause and I can reiterate some things, clarify some things as we currently have them written. and I can also be silent and let discussion ensue.
Are there any districts that would like to comment on this? Well, we're at the section we're at now.
Dustin Lewis again here. I'd be happy to comment. I mean, if anybody else is on, please add your opinions here. But I like the way in general that you guys decided, or Greg, that you put together for the soil sampling. It kind of follows what we were talking about with the cover crop ideas before, where you've got the chunk of money there, and we don't necessarily have to outline. We don't necessarily have to outline the farms ahead of time, like this November in the action plan. We're not going to have to say farm A, B, C, and D are going to get these tests. It's kind of a block, almost a block of money that we can use for that, or it can be put towards more technical assistance if I'm understanding it correctly, right?
Yeah, that was well summarized.
Okay, and that was kind of like what we were talking about at the cover crop meeting that we had before, and I think it came through here very well, as it leaves it open and flexible for districts to kind of meet the need as they see it, especially on a 2-year. When we're reaching out for 2 years, we're kind of we're planning, but with ag and with farms that we deal with, sometimes things can change a lot in 2 years. So being able to switch up and say, okay, well, maybe we weren't going to do a lot of soil sampling, but all of a sudden we've got a couple of guys that really need a lot of work. Or we've identified an issue that we didn't know about 6 months ago. So this keeps us flexible, and that's what districts excel at, is being flexible on what they can do and when they can do it. And the idea with allowing board members to apply, or district staff to apply, was something that I know was brought up quite a bit by my county, one of the farms in my county that happens to be a neighbor of Brian's. I know he talked to Brian quite a bit about it, but I think it's a very good compromise in allowing folks to apply. Simply because they're a board member or an employee doesn't mean they don't have the same issues and concerns as every other farmer in the county. So opening this up and trusting that districts can do it. I apologize, the fire alarm's going off.
Oh no.
We're right next to the fire department, so every time there's a call, nice loud fire alarm. At least they don't do the noon whistle anymore. As I was saying, it's nice to be able to apply for district staff or board members, and to open it up so districts can formulate a plan, so that there will hopefully not be any potential conflicts of interest arising. I think districts can handle that on an individual basis, but if you guys have that kind of draft proposal of how to do that, that would be immensely helpful to districts, so that we're not all trying to reinvent the wheel with trying to come up with what each district policy would be, or something that the Employees Association would need to work on putting together if we didn't have something from you guys. So far everything I'm seeing is sounds great. It's a lot to discuss, a lot to digest. I know I talked to Brian yesterday. There's a managers meeting Zoom call going on right now that for the Employees Association, for all the managers. I think Ben is sitting in on that, which is why he's not here. I talked to Brian, and I'm gonna try and schedule another managers meeting for the second week of June, prior to the next meeting. That way, if there's any other questions or comments that come up from other staff around the state, we can compile them, and I'll submit them to you, Brian, and to you, Greg. If there's anything that people like or don't like, realizing there's a short time frame, and not necessarily expecting you guys to take all of our comments and say, yep, we're going to do exactly what you say. But I know you guys look for our input, and it's clear that you guys listen, so we appreciate that.
Thanks, Dustin. Yeah, we sincerely try. yeah, and if you know, if you'd like some description and summary of the act of the AIM 17 approach and some of these more substantial changes to it, we'd be happy to provide that, and then to sort of tee up the discussion among district managers.
Yes, that would be great. When I send out the doodle poll for the call, I'm going to send it to yourself and Brian, just to try and make sure that, you know, you guys can field some of the questions, and it's not me trying to answer them directly. And then if there's any direct comments, they can ask you directly as well.
That'd be perfect. Yep, great. And we can tailor it to what you need and the time you have. So,
okay,
great.
Perfect.
Thanks for that.
Yep.
So, you know, there's lots of sort of parallel thought about this topic that's on the screen right now, with different expertise, right? The expertise that's unique to a district board, to the state committee staff, to our fiscal and ethics attorneys, and so on. You know, I would say let's expect some changes here as we all put more thought into this over the next few weeks. One, you know, sort of crystal balling scenario that does come to mind, though, and has come up in a few conversations, is that this could be this potential conflict of interest plan, and maybe something to, you know, focus in on, Dustin, could be especially restrictive for the district employee category. You know, if it could involve recusal from, you know, pretty much any activity on that Tier 4 project that they're associated with in their course of work. So you heard me say, you know, provide an example of that, you know, perhaps doing work out of work hours, whether that's via, you know, evenings and weekends or while on leave. You know, the clear ones are, you know, not being involved with discussions and decisions during board meetings. So it could be fairly thorough and systemic to their you know, professional work when associated with this a project that's, you know, on their farm or on their spouse's farm or something like that. Maybe it's totally a little easier row for a director, right, whose main engagement is during monthly board meetings. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I was going to say I totally agree, and the one thing that immediately popped to mind was, you know, the districts with much more limited staff, or, you know, in transition times when you might have lost an employee or two, and maybe all you've got is one field staff at the moment. You know, how do you handle that? You know, if it's just a manager and a clerk at some point, and the manager's got a contract, you know, what's the protocol there? You know, and I guess that's going to be a question at the meeting in June there with the other managers of, you know, could this be a problem in your situation? Is there anybody that is in that situation where there's so limited a staff in an office that you couldn't do it without, you know, field staff working on their own property in some form or another? But like you said, with directors, I think it would be much simpler, you know, just not being involved in the discussion at the meetings and not being involved in the voting would, you know, be pretty easy to do.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, there's some experience with that through our other programs and the recusals, you know, associated with that. And, you know, that just gets to the hard limit of being able to have a quorum on a regular basis. So, and one last thing you mentioned earlier, Dustin, which we might take you up on, is, you know, if this advances and, you know, we work on guidance for a potential conflict of interest plan in various scenarios of right, in engagement with the district. You know, we may be looking for the Employees Association to help with some of that idea generation and template generation. So I know if we do go down this road, we'll be engaged from the department state committee level, but some help could be useful as well. Particularly, you know how it interfaces and how the local ethics policies would play into this.
And that was my thought. First off, was we could do a poll of districts and see who's got what for policies and other, because some districts have programs that are not necessarily associated with you guys that they do for farmers, and they must have come up with something similar. So maybe we can pick and choose from what's already out there. Would be nice.
Great. And there's another part of this that is, essentially on the slide here. I'll just pick some language here. That BMP systems that represent priority projects. We're going to go into a second round of here, and I think the expectation is that districts continue to advance their local selection processes, and even go so far, right, Dustin? Some districts had something they're operating with and shared it for AIM 16, so other districts can look at that. I think there's districts have developed them over the course of AIM 16, so maybe we can get more of those examples cycling around the 52 districts that are engaging in this, or 45, I guess, with the cost share program. One could see a scenario in a future round that articulation of their selection process could be a part of the action plan, for instance, and that would further provide justification for the practices associated with it, for the projects associated, I should say.
Yeah, and the more information we can get from all the districts that are willing to share, the better. Similar to when COVID first started, and we were putting up plans on SharePoint of what everybody was doing, so we could all kind of pick and choose and tailor things to meet our own needs.
Well said. Yep.
Yeah, very good point, Dustin and Greg as well. And I just again, this is Brian. I just want to mention, as it was talked about already, project selection, making it clear how those projects are selected, is important. Certainly through this program, as we developed it with the thought in mind that this would help open up opportunities for farmer involvement and engagement with the conservation district, with AEM, projects that might not rank well in a overprescribed, type of program like Agnon Point Source. So, just continuing to use this program as a way to engage with more and more farms throughout the county is really important. So, regardless of the reason for this particular discussion, I think the concepts and the broader goals are also very valid, and we've had some really good discussions with the staff, the TAC, and continued here as well. Again, I just want to, thank everybody for taking part in these earlier discussions and taking part in the discussion today, and just reiterate the importance of this type of program and how it really puts a lot of the decision making in the hands of the district board and the district, and opening up opportunities for new farmers to engage.
Thanks, Brian. Other thoughts or ideas or comments? Again, the real approach here is to put this out, think about it a little bit today, but then to dig into it over the next few weeks and contact us or provide some forums like Dustin talked about there. but other thoughts for now? We have one more topic after this.
I would just throw, again, Dustin here, I would just throw it out there that some districts have already sent out to farmers their, what they're doing for this year for their, for the next round of AEM. So again, I know I mentioned this at the last meeting, but the quicker the better, so we can get this out so people know what their, what the guidelines are that they need to stay in for this year, and what, how you guys are opening up some of these things, so we don't have to be quite as strict. Because some people are already, like I said, releasing what their practices are going to be for next year, and getting people interested in signing up already. So I just wanted to try and head them off before they get too far along in their process with some of this information. So like I said, we could talk about it, next week or two here while we're planning the next managers meeting to really get into it in detail.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dustin. It's a good point, and that was the major reason we put out I gave a sneak peek of this at the last state committee meeting at the end, and then we included this, the overall framework of AIM 17 in the last district board report from the regional coordinators. So hopefully everybody was able to see that and at least take stock of, okay, it's going to go again. It's going to have a cost share track and the old TA track. Here's the option levels and here are the dates, right?
Yeah, and we've been tracking a little bit of that too, Dustin, and we're really heartened by that districts are putting that information out there. They're putting it in their newsletters and, doing exactly the kind of good practices that we're talking about here to advertise and make it available and work on project selection early in the process. So that's a really good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. Okay, I'm going to say that we move to the last topic, unless I just heard someone come in. I'm sorry. Okay, so this is a different topic. I guess there is some overlap, but and the last one to consider in the category of more substantial alternatives to consider for the AIM 17 design. And this is about how essentially the timing of Tier 4 cost share track packages would need to be submitted as a part of the action plan for a district's AIM 17 programming, and kind of calling it the design framework for the Tier 4 cost share track. And this came about, from districts and, bringing forward the idea of, real world timing issues with, not always having a farmer who's ready to make a decision, who's ready to, invest their part of the cost share implementation, or just build in the, extra time for that project at that moment. And having that overlap really nicely with the, a program's calendar date requirements. And so we did a little bit of soul searching on how we might float an alternative for review. I'll pause there and say, realizing that, our backup plan is how we did it in AIM 16, essentially. But float an alternative for review, which you're seeing a summary of on the page, and it's written out in longhand in the draft program and contract policy document that will be a part of the notes. To allow a little more flexibility there, all while being able to perform important functions like delivering implementation payments and so on to districts, so that they have an operating budget for quick reimbursements of, when projects meet different milestones. So let me step through it, and then I'll pause for clarifications and questions and discussion. And again, this is really teeing up the idea for deeper thought in the next couple of weeks. and reaching out to me to offer, good experience-based corrections. That definitely helped when we were developing AIM 16, and we had that nice round of managers meetings, and we made some really good changes for the better as a result of those discussions, or even just have clarifying discussions. Okay, so relative to the AIM 16 approach, which is our backup plan for AIM 17, here's a new concept. We would have an AIM 17 action plan due by November 1st, 2021, and it would include the usual goals and budget detailing for the technical assistance track that districts have done for years. And then if a district, remember they have a choice, would like to propose some Tier 4 cost share track projects, at this point they could submit a simple budget request. So let's say they had some Tier 3 plans and some priority practices, and we're very confident that they would be able to use, let's say, up to the cap of $100,000 that's allowed will be allowed in AIM 17. They could simply budget that out with about that much detail, right? So in this approach, none of the Tier 4 cost share package information would be required at the action plan submittal date. And those who are district associated on the lines will know what those are, right? The board resolution and the SW form budget and various supplemental things like the CRIS map or establishment plan if you're preparing forest buffer establishment work. And of course, we have to bake in the potential conflict of interest plan if we're going to go down that route into this too. So at a district's discretion, they could just submit a simple top line budget request. Let's say $100,000. That's the cap. Could be 80,000. Whatever they pencil out. I will say that if the flow of work for AIM 16 suits the district well, sooner is always better, and they could always put these Tier 4 cost share track project specifics in and alongside their action plan submittal by November 1st. But at a minimum, this alternative doesn't require that. The other things that they would send along are the district board resolution, same as AIM 16, supporting their action plan. And then a new part is just a good idea. Most districts do it. Documentation of local communication of this AIM 17 opportunity, and contact the districts for more information, kind of thing. And that would be again supported. The state would put out a version of its own that if a district wanted to riff off of, they certainly could. Okay, so that's what the action plan would look like. Once the contract was executed for AIM 17, they could submit a 25% advance of just the technical assistance budget. And the reason for that is that we don't have information, let's say at this point, for the specifics about their Tier 4 cost share track project. So, but right out of the gates, like many districts do, they could submit for a 25% advance to cover their, initial work on the technical assistance side of things. So, at any time though, including right on the date or soon after, a district could submit the details about those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some districts are doing upwards of 10 Tier 4 cost share track projects. They can submit them one at a time. They could submit them all as a bundle, however it is. And that package would include, some familiar items that I've just rattled off. And then the regional coordinators and yours truly would review and approve those. And at that point, they would be eligible, if they wanted to submit a claim for payment for 90% of the Tier 4 cost share track project funds for the project or projects that they've submitted at that point. So essentially this builds, if a district would prefer that, a little more flexibilities to submit the specific details about Tier 4 cost share track projects relative to the AIM-16 approach, which had all those in on November 1st of the head of the program year. And, you know, with the hope that it allows for a little more accuracy of the project details, the component BMPs, the commitment from the farmer, the budget, and reduces the number of project amendments that maybe would have otherwise come in. I will say we haven't had a tidal wave of project amendments, and project amendments are quite simple in this AIM-based program framework. But you know, there've been in the teens of amendments across the, and there'll probably be more coming, I'm sure, across the 163 projects that we started out with. So maybe, you know, 10%. And if folks recall the AIM-16 approach, we allowed for that 25% advance to be covering the entire contract budget. And then we had implementation payments for the Tier 4 cost share projects at 65%, so 25 plus 65 equals 90. And so that's the rhyme and reason, which also allows the 10% of the budget to be withheld until closeout, which we have as a part of our master contract language, I want to say. Anyway, it's a requirement. Apologies. I'll just finish this out with some simple things here. That's the substance of the proposed change or alternative to consider. But interim payments for technical assistance would stay the same. So when a district would like to submit it, they send us the report of the hours earned and subtract out what they've already received and request that payment. And then the closeout would be way out in the late winter of 2024, leap year as it lands in 2024. It's exciting. With a full closeout package and the opportunity to request the remaining funds that have been earned either through their technical assistance work or the Tier 4 cost share track projects. So that's the alternative design to consider. And if anybody wants to compare it, they would just compare the program and contract policy draft for the AIM-17 with the existing one for AIM-16. And I'll pause there for questions, clarifications, discussion.
Further comments, anyone? Questions?
Greg, this is Dustin again, of course. You've got X day, Y month in 2022 for the submitting the Tier 4 there. I mean, is there an idea on, you know, we're talking spring? Because I'm assuming you're going to want to do it fairly early to get 2 construction seasons under your belt, or just wondering what a rough idea was early in the year or not.
Yeah, great question, Dale. Dustin's a good partner. He keeps these meetings moving along. That's exactly the next question here is to consider there. This is a concept that, hey, we'll build in some flexibility, but this is not at all intended, and we don't want to send that signal to be a, you know, put in an action plan with a general budget, go out and build it, and then report back to us at the end. Where in order to, you know, execute the 90% payment, we need to have a specific sense for that specific implementation project. And so in that spirit, you know, we're exactly contemplating a date early in the sort of construction season of the first year to say, hey, you got to get us into these, or you got to get your projects into this. And certainly if one of those had to change in the ensuing months, you know, that's when they would use the amendment mechanism to change it, right? And what we were thinking is exactly what you described, and we're open to ideas on that. Whether it be, you know, May of 2022 or June of 2022. In one sense, it would be awfully nice to be beyond sort of, I don't know, the average or, you know, date of execution, timing of execution for the contract. But I guess all is not lost if it's a slow year for some reason, you know, for instance, like last year, and the district has this information in, and we're just waiting on a contract, executed contract to, you know, have them submit the claim for payment. Any date you've kind of indicated early construction season of the first year, Dustin?
That was just what I was kind of assuming you guys would be thinking, just to try and keep the two, because that was always the rub on some of these was 2 years is not a lot of time for some practices. And then on top of that, if you're going to do cover cropping, you definitely would need to have the contract done before the end of the first, you know, season, so that you could get the full 2 years of cover cropping. So I would assume it would be before the end of the first, you know, the end of next summer, because you're going to need to have a contract before you have guys go out and start cover cropping. Maybe that's your extreme end of the time frame, would be the end of next summer.
Yep. Right, and it's a little bit of program structure to just, you know, let's face it, there's some human nature here. We all operate by deadlines, and, you know, if we put an internal deadline within the program for the submittal, maybe we'd manage a little risk and, you know, keep projects trucking along among all of our busy schedules. So there's some of that logic behind it too. You know, this difference between the current requirement of November 1st and, you know, whatever day this is in the late spring, let's say, of the program year, first program year, you know, that would open up that winter season to meet with farmers and refine practice systems out of plans, button up plans, and, you know, have good projects to float. Have good projects to float with this slate of information, right?
And that was kind of my thought too, was right now we're trying to do a lot of that work right in the middle of our busiest, you know, field season that you've got highlighted there. And so just the opportunity to be able to wait until, you know, April or May to actually send in the paperwork and have things finalized would be a heavy, you know, weight off our shoulders. I realize, you know, it's every time we talk about stuff like this, we say, well, it's not like the old days when you had 3 or 4 months of winter and you were just kind of meeting with farmers and you didn't have a lot going on. You were able to catch up on stuff. We don't really have that anymore, but it's still a better time for us to put together the paperwork and get the contract signed, the agreement signed with the farmers if we did that over the winter, as opposed to trying to catch them in the fall when they're trying to harvest or something like that.
Thanks, Dustin. That's really helpful feedback.
Very helpful. Yeah, and just to add one more thing too, as we talked about, you know, with these contracts that are concurrent, you know, we're not extending projects out if there are, you know, projects that can't be completed by the end date of the contract. So also this gives you a little bit more time to take stock on where those projects are and determine whether or not you need to pick up those projects in around 17. It kind of gives you that entire remaining construction season to make that determination. Also, Dustin, just as You mentioned, depending on the types of practices and projects the district is going to engage in, it doesn't mean that they can't submit, that Tier 4 cost share project package earlier or even with the November 1st action plan. So, we'll review all of the documents and process everything together if that is the case.
That's right.
So one clarification, if I might, if you can submit some in November if you have them, and then submit the rest by the X day, Y month in 2022. You don't have to do all of one or all of the other, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's the current thought process. This Tier 4 budget request would set the budget that would then be the contracted budget. So if you added, let me say that better. If you added the technical assistance budget with this, this simple input on the action plan form for the cost share track budget, that total would represent your contracted amount. And then, the details of this side of the budget could be sent in various ways at various times up through, whatever date that is.
Okay, thank you.
Through that, that spring of 2022. Yep. So in other words, those individual Tier 4 project budgets wouldn't change the upper limit of your contracted amount. That would be set with whatever dollar amounts a district put into their action plan on November 1st. At least that's the current approach on the page. Other questions or thoughts?
Yeah, certainly, Dustin, thank you for all of your insights here. I do also just want to remind all the districts it's a non-competitive program. So, we talked about recusals earlier, but you don't have to recuse yourself from this discussion. So if you have any thoughts right now, feel free.
Yeah, this is a different beast than our competitive programs in terms of being able to discuss during meetings like this. Thanks for that.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so be looking for the state committee minutes here with the the slide set and then the actual marked up draft for the program and contract policy for AIM 17. And absolutely give us or me a call. We'll be taking in information and learning more from each other over the next few weeks, bringing a more refined draft to the June meeting for a decision. And in the meantime, part of that work is partnering with our attorneys in the department to make sure that this is a durable and sustainable program offering, and continue to inquire about the budget approval here from New York State Division of Budget, and all of that. If those stars aligned, we're aiming for a July or early August release of this. And then, of course, that means in the meantime, like Dustin's already mentioned really well here, continuing to work to finish up the 16 projects and tee up good projects for AIM 17 through Tier 3 planning. So, Dale, voting members, Brian, Dustin, everybody, I appreciate your time and thought on this.
comments you get from the districts and everything, we can have it finalized and vote on it at our next meeting next month. Anybody else have anything else to add or comment on this thing before we move on? Thanks again, Brian. We have a guest with us today that I'd like to introduce. Tennille Knoop, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, who is Communications Director for Sean, I leave from Assembly District 1119 near Utica. Wanted to give her the chance if she wanted to say anything or not. Tennille? That's okay. We do welcome you and glad you're listening. The part that I want to bring up is advisory comments, everything, whatever is going on. And I'll start with our voting members. Erica?
I'll just quickly say that I think I've mentioned in the meetings before, AFT's been working on a Women for the Land program that brings women landowners and farmers together to talk about conservation practices and planning. And so we've kicked off our program this year. And this month, I had an in-person event, I think a couple weeks ago, and a virtual one coming up. And it's really to support women in conversation around how to access resources and the right expertise and other information to support conservation on their land and working especially on land that they might rent. So that has gone well. It's the event, I believe, is in, I wrote this down, with Wyoming County, and we're actually going to be having another event in August that will be at Table Rock Farm, and then a third one later on. So I know that our team likes to spread the word around it, but certainly can pass that information along for those other events if there are folks within the networks who might be interested in attending. And the focus this year is really on conservation planning. So that's all I've got to report.
Thank you. Dave, do you have anything? You're muted, Dave. Well, I'll come back in. There we are.
There we go.
Yep.
I don't have anything to report.
Okay. Scott Ryan, Jan, you have anything to report?
No, nothing really to report.
Thanks, Scott. Brian, over to you.
Sure. Well, thank you. Actually, you know what? Pause. I don't know if Darren is on the line or not. He was going to try to stick with us if he's able to take his phone off mute. Oh, no worries. Okay. Well, thank you, Dale. Actually, I have a comment for Erica. That is really exciting news, and I just wanted to comment, although you might already know about this, but Table Rock Farm was a CRF award recipient. They did a cover and flare project, and we have a really nice write-up and case study, and they also were previewed in the cover and flare video that Beth Claypool and CCE led for us as well. So really good farm, and got a lot of good information from projects that they've done.
Oh, that is super helpful to know, Brian. I'll make sure that the crew headed there has some of the info.
Great, thank you. Okay, we will move to advisory member reports. Let's see here. We'll start with CDEA. Dustin, do you have anything to report today?
Yes, because I haven't spoken enough today. We're planning a CDEA meeting the first week of June. I'm getting final details on that, and then I'll release it to our partners so that they can make plans and hopefully attend. We're looking to do an in-person along with a Zoom option. The in-person portion will likely be at the Columbia County Soil and Water Conservation District's office. There is a conservation skills workshop meeting tomorrow. If anybody has any suggestions for classes or anything they want to add, they can contact me if they want to get the link to attend the meeting. Otherwise, you can just send me information and I will present it there. I know Brian and Blake already know about this, but the leadership conference we had been discussing has been tabled till next year. We just couldn't get clarification early enough on whether or not it could be done with the COVID restrictions, and with current COVID lifting of some COVID restrictions, we don't know if it'll be able to happen. So that's just been postponed to next year. And I'm planning a meeting, like I stated earlier, in June, the second week, to try and discuss this proposed AEM changes and see what the managers have to say about that. I also wanted to kind of throw a question out there, or possibly a request to the state committee. I know I talked to Brian yesterday about it a little bit. There was a email put out by Secretary Vilsack for folks that are in USDA rented and controlled space, such as my office here in Saratoga County and a lot of district offices. And it basically said that they're following the CDC requirements, which also sounds like what the governor is going to allow us to follow as of Wednesday, where folks that are fully vaccinated and 2 weeks past their shots can operate inside office buildings and in their offices without masks and not social distancing, but folks that are not vaccinated have got to continue to wear a mask and social distance. Our question, and I'm going to ask our county as well, but I would like to see if you guys have any opinions on it, or if you've gotten any opinions from your legal or HR side as to whether, my understanding was we can't ask medical questions of staff, and I feel that asking if you've gotten shots is a medical question. So if that's something we're looking into, and if you guys have any information on that and have looked into it at all, we very much appreciate any references you have to what the law is and what we can and can't do as far as asking. If somebody just tells me they have their COVID shots, then I'm taking their word for it. I'm taking your word for it on a whole lot of stuff in the office. When we say there's rules, you just assume you're following them correctly. So if you guys have any information regarding that and anything with the COVID regulations as they change, that would be greatly appreciated if you could share it with us.
Thank you, Dustin, and thanks for forwarding on that email from Secretary Vilsack. I did have a chance to review that. Blake is not on the line today. I don't know if Paula Bagley has any information about this, but I certainly plan to reach out to Blake for any clarifying information based on that email. Unless Paula, is that something that you might be able to address?
At this time, there hasn't been any change in direction from national to NRCS yet. So there was that email, but I don't think we've been directed through the chain of what that means.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know. And Dustin, again, same with any information that comes out from the state that is extended to other municipal facilities and conservation districts. We will make sure to send out. I think right now, we're starting to transition. There are a lot of questions about the details. I'm sure there are public health professionals out there, working on that and trying to provide additional guidance.
Well, thank you.
Yep. Okay, appreciate that. Anything else, Dustin?
Nope, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. DEC, Sarah or Julie?
I'm all set, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Julie. I just wanted to remind everyone, I'm sure everybody knows, but the CFA is out now. So WQIP and NPG were released sometime last week.
Congrats, that is excellent. I know that it was reported that was the plan for a few months, and plan move forward. So yeah, we did send out the link to the CFA to all conservation districts. So appreciate that, Julie. Congratulations to the team.
Thank you. We're very excited about it.
Okay, Department of State.
Yeah, this is Stephanie, just following up on that. And the CSA, our programs were also released. So we have the local waterfront revitalization program that went out for a double round this year for $27.75 million. And that would include implementation or development of watershed plans, which would be related to some of the work that the districts are doing for those approved plans. So that's available. Also our Brownfield Opportunity Area program that went out for $3.5 million. And then we do have a new program, just for your awareness, is we did release $1 million through our Smart Growth program for the development of comprehensive plans that incorporate smart growth principles. That's a new program this year that's available. So those are the 3 programs that were released last week. Deadline is, I believe, July 30th at 4 p.m. They always want to emphasize that 4 p.m. Yeah, so we're excited about that as well. It'll be a big year.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you were able to get the approval to combine the 2 funding rounds. And I think you had talked about earlier in the planning for this that implementation will be an emphasis on the waterfront revitalization program. Is that still the case?
Yeah. Yep. So implementation, we wanted to, because last year we didn't get much on the ground, obviously. So with a larger pot of money, we wanted to focus on implementation and getting things on the ground. So while planning is still an eligible activity, we're, reaching out to folks to focus on implementation this year. So there is a cap per project or per application of $5 million. I don't believe we have a minimum this year, but the focus is going to be on implementation.
Excellent, thank you. Department of Health.
And Kate, I don't know. I don't know if Kate had anything to add, if she had any updates.
My apologies.
No, and I'm actually not sure. She did have another meeting. I'm not sure if she. No, it looks like she did have to drop off. So.
Okay. Appreciate
I'm done
that.
now.
Any questions? Other questions for Stephanie, Department of State? All right, thank you, Stephanie. Department of Health.
No updates from Department of Health on my side. Brian, Morgan, do you have anything?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Cornell Cooperative Extension, Beth Claypool, do you have any reports?
No reports except just to say that the whole the comments for the cover crops, pro and cons, have been having a lot of discussion in certain research circles. So I think it's been a really good effort to kind of understand the challenges and the opportunities related to the request. So it's been interesting.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. All right. I did not hear Brian Rom from Cal's on earlier, but I will pause and ask if he's on now. Cal's? Okay. Steve Shaw, SUNY ESF.
Hi, Brian. No, I don't have any updates today. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. NRCS, Paula.
I do have an update. So this past week, or maybe it was the week prior, NRCS's national policy has been updated that asserts that it is necessary for NRCS district conservationists to attend the regularly scheduled and recurring local soil and water board meetings that occur outside of regular duty hours as part of their normal duties. So once USDA meeting and gathering pandemic restrictions are lifted, NRCS is going to be allowed and expected to attend soil and water board meetings that are held after business hours.
That is great. I remember when the policy that they could not attend. And now that also includes before business hours, I would assume as well. There are
yes. Of course, they can attend during business hours, obviously, but those after hours, there's authorities in place that they can be granted extra time or time flexibilities to be able to deal with that. So that's actually big. I don't know, it's pretty big news on our end that we can now be engaged with the boards better. So.
Well, that's good to hear. And just as you mentioned, you know, that as COVID restrictions begin to lift, and certainly I know that there are a lot of district boards out there that are thinking about meeting again in person, and some that probably will have some form of remote option, you know, moving forward. The timing for this is really good. So appreciate that report and that update. All right. Anything
Thank you.
else, Paula?
That's all.
Okay. Appreciate it. I'm just going to. I'll start off with staff report. Just wanted to thank everybody for a really great discussion again today. And as we already mentioned, all the information that we presented today will be available in the minutes, and I will do my absolute best to get those out in draft form for everyone to react to. And appreciate, Dustin, your willingness to hold another managers meeting. Just wanted to also mention where we are with the Climate Action Council and the Ag and Forestry Advisory Panel, or all the panels, I should say. The remaining 4 panels presented to Climate Action Council just last week. So now the Climate Action Council has heard all of the panel presentations and recommendations for meeting the goals of the CLCPA, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. Right now, the council is still now deliberating on all of the potential recommendations and will be providing any feedback. We're also starting what's called the integration analysis, so looking at all the recommendations and the potential greenhouse gas emission reduction estimates from those recommendations. So some of the work of the panels, or the estimates that were formulated, might be subject to some change. So as that continues to develop, I will present to this committee on the status. And of course, the scoping plan itself, which is a requirement as a part of the CLCPA now that the Climate Action Council has heard all the recommendations. Based on their feedback, the scoping plan will begin in earnest. So I'll be involved in a meeting with state agency staff tomorrow, I believe, where we're going to begin that process. So much more to come, and I'll continue to keep this committee briefed as, you know, our programs and certainly district conservation efforts all, you know, are part of our Ag and Forestry Advisory Panel work. Pause for questions or comments. All right. I'm going to move to staff updates. I'm not going to call on everybody individually, but if there are staff that have got an update or report to give to the committee, please take your phone off mute and go ahead. Okay, Now moving to Conservation District reports. I see there are still some Conservation District personnel on the line with us today. If anybody's got any thoughts or questions or comments for the committee, now's your chance. You can take your phone off mute and go ahead. All right. If there are any members of the public on the line today and would like to address the committee with any thoughts or questions, or other partners as well, please, now's your chance. Okay, Dale, maybe I need a mic check. Hopefully you guys can hear me, but Dale, back to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Next meeting date? I have, I believe it's June 15th.
Yes, I think you're right. Of course, there was another error on the agenda here that I did not move that forward to the following month, but yes, I would recommend the third Tuesday. It's early, though, because I think June 1st is a Tuesday as well, so June 15th would be the target.
Voting members, how's it look for you?
Looks good for me.
Scott?
Yeah, I'll try and make it work.
Dave, you're on mute. Still on mute, Dave. There you are. You're off now.
Okay, I'm going to try to make it work.
Okay.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
I probably will be there.
See how your knee is doing. Okay, sounds like it's
Yeah,
the 15th.
Okay, well, sounds good. And I'm not sure about the executive order. Might be expiring early June if the information I have is correct. But I will, certainly get information out if we are changing our format. I believe as long as we have a public setting, we still can do a WebEx option. But I will be researching that and getting back to everybody with, what our format for our next meeting will be.
Yeah, if we're allowed to meet in person, we do need to do it time this year. It's been a long time.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It has.
Right. Is there anything else, anyone? Is there anything else while we're here? Well, I guess that's it. Appreciate everybody participating today. Greg, you had a very large presentation, but went well. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. Take care now.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.